Scorpio, the pieces have finally fallen into place. At this very second as you read this, your mind is finally connecting dots that were scattered for months, maybe years. That awkward conversation from 3 weeks ago, that behavior that didn't make sense at the time, that little lie you let slip, that look that lasted a second longer, that charged silence. All those isolated fragments have just formed a complete and terrifying picture in your head. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. But here's the problem. This sudden clarity comes at a price, because now that you know, you've become dangerous to those who were operating in the shadows. And they'll realize that you've noticed. It's the raw reality revealing itself all at once, after being camouflaged for so long. You feel it in your stomach now, that physical sensation of, how did I not see this before? But you did see it. You always saw it. You just saw the pieces separately, and your Scorpio brain was still processing, cataloging, filing each anomaly until it had enough data to form the inevitable conclusion. And the conclusion has just formed. And it's worse than you imagined, much worse. Because it's not just one person deceiving you, it's a system, a pattern, a coordinated operation that you were at the center of without fully realizing it until now. Let me tell you what's really happening in this moment of brutal clarity. Your Scorpio subconscious has known for a long time. It's been sending you signals, that inexplicable discomfort in the presence of certain people, that instinctive resistance to certain invitations or situations. You called it intuition, and you were right. But now your conscious mind has finally caught up with what your subconscious had already mapped out. And this synchronization between conscious and subconscious is what creates that moment of, now everything makes sense. It's as if an entire movie you watched in random scenes is suddenly rearranged in the correct chronological order, and the complete story, sinister, elaborate, intentional, is revealed. And here's the part that makes you angry at yourself. The signs were always there, hidden in plain sight. You saw them but didn't fully trust what you were seeing because it seemed too absurd, too conspiratorial, too paranoid. So you convinced yourself you were exaggerating, that you were reading things that weren't there, that you were being unfair. And while you doubted your own perception, they continued to operate, certain that you wouldn't put the pieces together in time. But you did. Late perhaps, but you did. And now the question is no longer what's happening, but rather what do I do now that I know? Can you feel how this revelation has completely changed the game you didn't even know you were playing? Scorpio, what I'm going to do now is show you exactly what pattern you just discovered and why you need to be very, very careful in your next moves. Because discovering the truth is only half the battle. The other half is navigating that truth without getting burned in the process. And people who operate in the shadows don't like it when the light comes on. They won't simply accept that you know. They'll try to convince you that you're crazy. They'll make you question your own sanity again. They'll create alternative narratives so convincing that you might start to doubt what you just perceived so clearly. The pattern you discovered likely involves multiple people you thought were independent of each other. But now you see the connections. You realize how person A always appeared right after person B planted a certain idea in your head. How person C validated person D's lies without even realizing they were being used as a tool. How all these seemingly casual interactions were actually choreographed to create a specific effect, to keep you confused, divided, doubting yourself, and more vulnerable to manipulation. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, the pattern you've just discovered involves people from work or your professional circle. You finally understood that it wasn't just incompetence or poor communication. It was deliberate sabotage disguised as honest mistakes. And now that you see the pattern, you can predict the next moves. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, the revelation is about personal relationships. You discovered that someone close to you was manipulating information between different people in your circle, creating conflicts and misunderstandings that benefited them. And for those born between November 13th and 21st, you've just understood that something you thought was love, care, or concern was actually meticulous control disguised as protection. But the care I need you to take isn't just about those people. It's about yourself. Because when a Scorpio discovers they've been manipulated, the first reaction is anger. Anger at the person who deceived them, but mainly anger at themselves for allowing it. And this anger can make you act impulsively, rashly, emotionally. It can make you want to expose everything immediately, confront everyone involved, take justice into your own hands. And that's exactly what they're expecting you to do. Because if you explode emotionally, they'll use that explosion to paint you as unstable, paranoid, problematic. They'll say, "See, I always knew there was something wrong with him, her." And suddenly, you, the victim, become the aggressor in their narrative. So the care you need to take is strategic. You've discovered the pattern. Great. Now don't tell anyone yet. Don't announce that you know. Continue acting as if you're still in the dark. Observe more. Collect more evidence. Let them continue operating while you now watch with eyes wide open. Because when you act with full knowledge, but they still think you're blind, you have a massive advantage. You can anticipate. You can protect yourself. You can document. And when the time is right, and you'll know when the time is right, you act with surgical precision, not with emotional outbursts. Here's something you need to understand about this moment of clarity. It came now for a reason. It didn't come when you were weaker, more vulnerable, more isolated. It came now because you are finally strong enough to handle the truth without destroying yourself in the process. Your spirit knew you weren't ready before, that the full revelation would overwhelm you. So it was preparing you little by little, strengthening you, until you reach this point where you can face the truth head-on and not crumble. The now everything makes sense feeling is liberating and terrifying simultaneously. Liberating because you finally understand that you weren't crazy, that your suspicions were well-founded, that your intuition was absolutely correct. Terrifying, because now you know that the world around you was a carefully constructed reality, not the reality you believed it to be. It's like living in the Matrix and suddenly seeing the code. You can no longer pretend you don't see it. You can no longer return to the innocence of before. And that's uncomfortable because innocence, however illusory, is comfortable. Scorpio, caution also extends to whom you trust with this information. Because the moment you discover the pattern, your first reaction might be to seek someone to validate what you're seeing. But be very careful about who you choose. Some people in your circle may be inadvertently feeding the system you just discovered. Others may be deliberately involved, and still others may be neutral but unable to handle this type of information. They might tell the wrong people, they might downplay what you're saying, they might make you doubt again. The best approach when you have a revelation like this is process it internally first. Write down everything you've just understood somewhere private. Map the connections. Document the events. Create a timeline. Do this not to show anyone, but to solidify in your own mind what you've discovered. Because manipulators are masters at making you question your memory and perception. So you need to have concrete records that anchor you in reality when they try to make you doubt again. And they will try. Oh, they will try very hard. Because people who operate elaborate manipulation schemes don't give up easily when they realize they've been caught. They escalate. They become more aggressive, more creative with their lies. They might even admit small truths to hide bigger truths. Okay, I lied about that, but it was only because... And in the process of admitting the small lie, they distract you from the bigger manipulation you were about to fully expose. Here's what's happening energetically now that you've had this revelation. A portal of choice has opened. You can choose to confront directly and face the chaos that will follow. You can choose to quietly walk away without giving explanations. You can choose to stay and play the game now with the cards on the table. Each choice has different consequences. None is inherently right or wrong, but you need to make the choice consciously, strategically, not reactively. If you choose to confront, prepare for denial, manipulation, and the reversal of victim and aggressor roles. Prepare for people to take sides, to be portrayed as problematic, to lose relationships you thought were solid, but also prepare for liberation, for truth, for the end of an era of confusion, and for people who truly value you to show their true colors by standing by your side. If you choose to quietly walk away, prepare to be misunderstood, for people to ask why you disappeared, to potentially be vilified in your absence. But also prepare for peace, for not having to explain or justify, for simply removing your energy from a toxic environment and rebuilding away from the rubble, for never again having to interact with people who saw you as a chess piece, not as a human being. If you choose to stay and play the game with full awareness, prepare yourself for a life of hypervigilance, to never be able to fully relax, to always need to be 3 steps ahead. But also prepare yourself to potentially turn the tables, to use their underestimation to your advantage, to protect others who could fall into the same traps you almost fell into, to be the secret agent in your own life. Scorpio, one thing is important for you to understand. This revelation didn't come to destroy you. It came to set you free. Yes, the truth hurts. It hurts to know you were deceived. It hurts to realize that people you trusted didn't deserve your trust. It hurts to see the time and energy you wasted on false relationships. But you know what hurts even more: continuing to live in illusion, continuing to be manipulated without knowing it, continuing to give your power to people who were using it against you. Now that you know, you have a choice, and choice is power. Before, you were being moved like a chess piece without knowing you were on a board. Now you see the whole board. You see the players. You see the strategies. You can choose to overthrow the board. You can choose to leave the game. You can choose to play better. But you can no longer be played unconsciously. And that, however frightening it may be, is progress. Caution is also advised against impulsive revenge. I know you want it. The Scorpio nature, when betrayed, craves retaliation. It wants the person who hurt you to feel the same pain. It wants justice, balance, consequences, and all of that is valid. But revenge carried out of blind rage rarely brings the satisfaction you imagine. It often puts you in a vulnerable position, legally, morally, or socially. It makes you descend to the level of the person who manipulated you. It keeps you energetically bound to them through hatred. The best revenge a Scorpion can get is strategic. It's using the knowledge you have to protect yourself and thrive. It's letting the natural consequences of their actions eventually catch up with you. And they always do. It's living so well in your truth that their falsehood becomes obvious by contrast. It's becoming so strong that they can never touch you again. This corrodes manipulators far more than any direct retaliation. In the coming days, you'll start to see even more connections, because now that the first big revelation has happened, your mind is in unraveling everything mode. You'll gain insights into past situations. You'll finally understand why certain things happened the way they did. You'll have those, so that's why moments. Let it happen. Process everything, but don't get stuck in the past. Use these understandings to inform your future choices, not to endlessly ruminate on what's already happened. There will also be times when you doubt yourself, when you think, am I exaggerating? Is it really that serious? That's normal. It's your mind trying to protect you from the discomfort of the truth by offering the more comfortable option of denial. But don't fall into that trap. Trust the revelation you've had. Trust the patterns you've identified. Your first perception is usually right. It's when you start rationalizing and justifying that you get lost again. Scorpio, something crucial. This discovery will permanently change how you see people and relationships. You will become more skeptical, more cautious, slower to trust. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's wisdom, it's discernment, it's healthy self-protection. But be careful not to let this harden you completely, not to start seeing manipulation where it doesn't exist, not to project the malice of some onto everyone. Genuine people exist, authentic relationships are possible. You just need to be more selective about who enters your inner circle. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not seeing it sooner. Forgive yourself for trusting those who didn't deserve it. Forgive yourself for giving so many chances. Forgive yourself for ignoring the signs. You didn't do any of that out of stupidity or weakness. You did it because you're human, because you wanted to believe in the best of people, because you gave them the benefit of the doubt. These are beautiful qualities that were exploited, not flaws you need to correct. The problem was never your ability to trust. It was their choice to betray that trust. And about the people involved in the pattern you uncovered, they probably won't change. No matter how many chances you give them, how many conversations you have, how many ultimatums you issue. People who build elaborate systems of manipulation are that way because they choose to be, because it serves some deep psychological purpose for them. Your exposure of the truth won't magically transform them into honest people. It might make them more careful, more secretive, more elaborate in future manipulations, but it rarely creates genuine change. So don't waste energy trying to fix them, teach them, or make them see the error of their ways. That's not your job. Your job is to protect yourself. It's to use that knowledge to make better choices. It's to build a life where people like that don't have access to you. It's to surround yourself with so much authenticity that falsehood is obviously out of place when it tries to enter. The care in the title is also about taking care of yourself during this awakening process, because revelations of this magnitude are emotionally exhausting. You may feel anger, sadness, disgust, shame, fear, relief, all at the same time. You may have difficulty sleeping because your mind won't stop processing. You may feel anxiety about who else might be involved. You may have urges to compulsively check people and situations. All of this is normal, but you need to implement active self-care during this period. This means maintain healthy routines even when you want to isolate yourself completely. Eat well even when you have no appetite. Move your body even when you want to freeze. Talk to someone you trust, therapist, true friend, family member, even when you want to carry everything alone. Scorpios tend to process things alone, and that has its place. But total isolation during trauma can make you spiral. You need external anchors too. Also use this time to reinforce your boundaries, because now that you clearly see who and what no longer serves you, you need to act according to that knowledge. And that may mean ending relationships you previously tried to save, leaving environments you previously tried to tolerate, saying no to people you previously always tried to accommodate. It will be uncomfortable. People will react badly, but your peace is more important than their comfort in your discomfort. Scorpio, let me tell you something you need to hear. You will survive this. You've already survived manipulation without even knowing you were being manipulated. Now that you know, you're in an infinitely better position. You will emerge from this stronger, wiser, more protected. The clarity you've gained, however painful, is a gift. Use it. Honor it. Let it guide you to a more authentic, more aligned, more truthful life. And when you're on the other side of this, and you will be, you'll look back and be grateful. Grateful for having had the courage to see the truth. Grateful for having had the strength to act on it. Grateful for having chosen yourself even when it was difficult, because that's the essence of the Scorpio transformation, dying to an illusion and being reborn in the truth. It's painful, but it's necessary. And it's always, always better than continuing to live a lie. Share in the comments simply, "Now I see." 3 words that mark the end of your willful blindness and the beginning of your life with open eyes. You don't need to explain what you see or who is involved. Just mark this moment of revelation and let it be the turning point it should be. Now everything makes sense, Scorpio. The pieces have fallen into place. The pattern has emerged. The truth has been revealed. And yes, it's disturbing, but it's liberating. And with care, strategy, and fierce self-love, you will transform this painful discovery into the foundation of a life where no one can ever manipulate you like this again, because you saw it. And once a Scorpio sees something they never forget, use this, protect yourself, and rebuild stronger than ever. Subscribe to the channel because in upcoming content, I'll guide you on how to navigate life after the revelation, how to rebuild self-confidence, how to identify genuine people after being deceived by fake ones, how to process betrayal without letting it permanently harden you, how to use this experience as a catalyst for the best chapter of your life. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single step.